It started subtly, I guess. Most things that unravel your entire life tend to, don't they? A slow, almost imperceptible fraying at the edges before the whole fabric rips apart. Mark and I, we had that kind of life people looked at and envied. White picket fence, not literally, but you know the vibe. A cozy ranch house in the quiet cul-de-sac in the suburbs of Phoenix, just south of Chandler. 2 cars, both paid off. 2 kids, a boy and a girl, both bright and healthy and loud, just the right amount of chaos. He was an engineer, solid, dependable, built things that worked. I was a marketing manager at a mid-sized tech company downtown, creative, always buzzing with ideas. We met in college at ASU, fell in love over cheap beer and late-night study sessions, and built a life that felt like it was carved out of granite, unshakable, unbreakable. Or so I thought. Our days were a comfortable rhythm. Morning coffee on the patio, the desert air still cool before the sun really hit, talking about the kids' schedules, the grocery list, some mundane work thing. He'd kiss me goodbye, a quick peck, and head off to his office. I'd wrangle the kids, drop them at school, and brave the morning commute. Evenings were a whirlwind of homework, dinner, bath time stories, and then, finally, quiet. That's when we'd reconnect. Or we used to. We'd sit on the couch, watching some Netflix show, sharing a bottle of wine, our legs tangled. He'd rub my feet after a long day in heels, and I'd trace patterns on his arm. We knew each other's unspoken thoughts, finished each other's sentences, had a shorthand that only 20 years together can forge. It wasn't passion novel intense anymore, but it was deep, abiding love. Or so I believed. Looking back, the cracks probably started appearing long before I acknowledged them. It wasn't anything he did specifically. It was more an absence, a gentle receding tide that left the shore feeling a little emptier each day. He got really into golf, serious about it, not just a weekend hobby. He'd be at the course before dawn on Saturdays, come home smelling of sunscreen and grass, exhausted but exhilarated. He'd talk about his handicap, his swing, the sand traps. I'd nod, smile, make dinner, listening with half an ear while my mind drifted to school projects or client presentations. He was present, but his focus felt shifted. And I was busy too, swamped with work, managing a growing team, trying to keep all the plates spinning. The kids were getting older, needing us less for basic care but more for emotional support, driving them to soccer practice or piano lessons. We were both just busy, living parallel lives in the same house, sharing a bed but not always a mind. Then Chris joined my team. He was new to the company, moved from Seattle. Fresh out of a relationship, he said, looking for a new start. He was younger than me, by maybe 8 years, but not so young it felt weird. Tall, with a kind of scruffy charm, a quick laugh, and eyes that really saw you when you spoke. He was bright, enthusiastic, full of new ideas, and he was assigned to my project, a big campaign launch. We spent a lot of time together, initially. Long hours in meeting rooms, brainstorming sessions, late nights fueled by lukewarm coffee and takeout. It was purely professional at first. I was his manager, his mentor, guiding him through the company's culture. But then the conversation started to drift, from campaign strategy to weekend plans, to what we like to cook, to the stupid shows we binged. He listened, really listened. Not like Mark, who'd often half listen while scrolling through ESPN on his phone. Chris would lean forward, meet my gaze, ask follow-up questions. He remembered details I'd casually mentioned days before. He'd bring me my favorite almond milk latte from the coffee shop downstairs, without me even asking. Little things, insignificant really on their own, but they started to accumulate, like tiny grains of sand forming a dune. One Tuesday, we were the last ones in the office, wrapping up a particularly grueling day. The lights were dim, the cleaning crew was making their rounds outside our glass-walled conference room. We ordered pizza, shared a 6-pack of craft beer someone had left in the fridge. We were tired, wired, and laughing. He told me about his ex, about how she'd blindsided him, how he was trying to figure things out. I found myself telling him about the quiet corners of my life, the parts I didn't voice to Mark, the feeling of being invisible sometimes, of carrying the emotional load for everyone in the house, the yearning for something more than just comfortable. I didn't articulate it as a complaint about Mark, not directly. It was more a lament about the general state of things, the pressures of adulthood. But it was definitely a vent. And Chris just listened, nodding, making me feel heard. When he walked me to my car, the parking garage was empty. cool concrete echoing our footsteps. He paused by my driver's side door. The air felt thick, charged. He looked at me, his eyes gentle but intense. "You're incredible, Sarah," he said, his voice low. "Don't ever forget that." My breath caught. It was a simple compliment, but it felt like a jolt, a current I hadn't felt in years. I thanked him, my voice a little shaky, and got in my car, my heart thrumming. I drove home that night feeling conflicted, buoyant almost, and then instantly guilty. What was I doing? Mark was a good man, a truly good man. He provided, he protected, he loved our children fiercely. He was my rock. This feeling, this fluttery lightness Chris had evoked, it was dangerous. I pushed it down. It was just a colleague, a friend, a younger guy, probably just being nice. Nothing more. But the subtle shifts continued. Texts became more frequent, blurring the lines between work and personal. Good morning texts asking about my day. Pictures of his dog, funny memes. He started inviting me to grab a quick lunch, just the two of us, to talk strategy. We'd find ourselves lingering, talking about everything and nothing. The conversations were easy, stimulating. He was attentive, curious, making me feel interesting. Mark and I had stopped asking each other about our days with genuine curiosity years ago. It was more of a formality. One Friday, after another long week, Chris suggested we grab a drink to unwind. Just a quick one, he said, to decompress. I hesitated. Mark was probably already home, cooking one of his famous grilled cheese sandwiches for the kids, maybe planning a movie night. But the thought of going home to that familiar, comfortable routine suddenly felt stifling. I told myself it was harmless, just a drink. Sure, I texted back. Sounds good. We went to a trendy little bar downtown, low lighting, exposed brick, playing indie music. We found a booth in the corner. The single drink turned into 2, then 3. The conversation flowed effortlessly. He told me about his dreams, his fears, his hopes for the future. He made me laugh, a deep, unrestrained laugh that I hadn't realized I'd suppressed. I found myself smiling constantly, feeling alive in a way I hadn't in years. As the night wore on, the air between us thickened again. His knee occasionally brushed mine under the table. His hand rested on my arm a little too long when he emphasized a point. My heart was pounding, a frantic drum against my ribs. It felt wrong, utterly wrong, but undeniably exciting. When we finally left, the city lights blurred around us. He insisted on walking me to my car, his hand gently on the small of my back. The night air was cool against my flushed cheeks. We stood by my car, the silence stretching between us, punctuated only by the distant hum of traffic. He looked at me, those intense eyes again. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice hoarse. He leaned in, slowly, and I didn't pull away. My mind screamed no, but my body didn't listen. His lips were soft, hesitant at first, then firmer. A searing heat shot through me, a primal response I hadn't felt in what felt like forever. It wasn't a gentle peck. It was a deep, consuming kiss that tasted of whiskey and longing and forbidden desire. When he pulled away, my breath hitched. My head was spinning. Guilt, hot and visceral, immediately flooded me, chasing away the brief euphoria. I have to go, I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. I fumbled with my keys, yanked open the door, and practically fell into the driver's seat. I didn't look back. I sped out of the parking lot, tears blurring my vision. That drive home was torture. Every streetlight was a spotlight on my betrayal. Every mile an extension of the lie. Mark was asleep when I got back, curled on his side of the bed. I stripped silently in the dark, climbed in beside him, keeping as much distance as possible. The smell of his familiar scent, the warmth of his sleeping form, it all felt like a heavy blanket of shame. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, the image of Chris's face, the feel of his lips, replaying in an agonizing loop. I felt like a stranger in my own skin, a fraud in my own bed. The next day was a blur of forced normalcy. I cooked breakfast, played with the kids, tried to engage in conversation with Mark. Every time he looked at me, I felt a fresh wave of nausea. I wanted to confess, to scream it out, to purge myself of the secret. But the thought of shattering his world, of destroying our family, was paralyzing. So I swallowed it, let it fester. Chris texted me Saturday morning. "Are you okay? Last night was powerful." My stomach lurched. I didn't respond immediately. I couldn't. I spent the day in a haze, distracted, irritable. Mark noticed. "Everything all right, babe? You seem a little off." I brushed it off, blamed work stress. He bought it. He always did. He trusted me completely, and that trust was like a knife twisting in my gut. But then, Sunday night, another text from Chris. "I can't stop thinking about you." And a picture of the bar we were at, a blurry shot of our corner booth. My resolve crumbled. My fingers flew across the keyboard. "Me neither," I typed, then deleted. "This is crazy," I wrote instead. His reply came instantly. "Crazy good, right?" And just like that, the door that I should have slammed shut, I left ajar. The affair began in earnest. Stolen moments, lunch breaks that extended into afternoons, work dinners that ended with us in his apartment, just a few blocks from the office, the city lights glittering outside his window. His apartment was minimalist, modern, filled with art books and records. It felt like a completely different world from my suburban home, a world of freedom and immediate gratification. With him, I was Sarah, the vibrant, witty woman I felt like I used to be, before the weight of responsibility settled onto my shoulders. He made me feel young, desirable, seen. He touched me with an eagerness that Mark hadn't shown in years, a hunger that reignited something deep inside me that I thought was long dead. The guilt was a constant companion, a dull ache beneath the surface. Every lie I told Mark, every excuse I concocted, felt like a fresh stab. I became an expert at deception. I'd meticulously plan my schedule, making sure I had plausible alibis. I'd silence my phone, delete texts, clear my browser history. I hated myself for it. I hated the person I was becoming. I'd look at my kids, their innocent faces, and feel a wave of self-loathing so strong it would make me physically ill. But then Chris would text, or I'd see him at work, and the pull was too strong to resist. It was like an addiction, a secret life that gave me an intoxicating rush, despite the devastating cost. Our sex life, Mark's and mine, became almost non-existent. I'd feign headaches, exhaustion, or just turn away, unable to bear his touch, feeling like a traitor. He noticed, of course. He tried to talk about it. "Is everything okay between us, Sarah? You seem so distant." I'd offer some vague excuse about stress, tell him I loved him, and change the subject. He'd look hurt, confused, but he'd back off. He was too good, too trusting to push harder, and I exploited that. That thought that I was actively hurting the man who loved me most for a fleeting, selfish thrill was what truly made me despise myself. The affair lasted for months, 3, maybe 4. Time became distorted, a blur of stolen kisses, hushed phone calls, frantic text messages, and the constant, gnawing fear of discovery. Chris started talking about a future, about me leaving Mark. He painted pictures of us together, free, happy, unburdened. And a part of me, the selfish, impulsive part, yearned for it. But the other part, the mother, the wife, the woman who had built a life with Mark, recoiled in horror. Could I really blow up everything? Destroy my children's sense of security? Shatter Mark's heart into a million pieces? For what? For a temporary high? The emotional toll was immense. I was perpetually exhausted, my nerves frayed. I was short-tempered with the kids, distracted at work, a ghost in my own home. I felt like I was living 2 separate lives, neither of them truly mine. I started losing weight, my appetite gone. My friends noticed. "You okay, Sarah? You look really thin." I'd force a smile, blame stress. The end came as it always does. Not with a bang, but a slow, agonizing unraveling. It was a Saturday morning, a beautiful, crisp fall day. Mark and I were having coffee on the patio. The kids were watching cartoons inside.
I had just come back from a yoga class that morning, which was actually 2 hours at Chris's apartment. I was still buzzing, still trying to shake off the illicit sweetness of his goodbye kiss. My phone was on the patio table, face down. I picked it up to check the time. A notification popped up from Chris, a picture of the two of us, taken that morning, laughing in his kitchen. My heart stopped. I must have accidentally left my photos synced to the cloud, or to our shared family tablet at home, or something. I don't even remember the technical details. All I know is that picture was there, on my lock screen, for a split second, before I could swipe it away. Mark saw it. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught the flash of the screen. I saw his head snap up, saw his eyes widen, focusing on my phone. His face, usually so warm and relaxed on a weekend morning, turned pale, then slowly, terrifyingly, crimson. What is that? His voice was a strangled whisper, barely audible. My blood ran cold. My hands started shaking uncontrollably. I couldn't speak. I tried to pull the phone away, but it was too late. He grabbed it, his grip surprisingly strong, almost painful. He scrolled through.
My heart hammered against my ribs, a trapped bird desperate to escape. His eyes, usually so kind, filled with a raw, agonizing pain I had never seen before. He saw the texts, the intimate photos, the entire hidden life I had constructed. The silence that fell between us was deafening, suffocating. The cheerful sounds of the cartoons from inside the house suddenly felt grotesque, an ironic counterpoint to the destruction unfolding on our patio. "Sarah," he finally said, his voice broken, barely recognizable. He looked at me, his eyes brimming with tears, disbelief warring with heartbreak. How could you?" The words ripped through me. All the guilt, all the shame, all the suppressed truth came rushing out, a torrent of self-loathing. I started crying, huge, racking sobs that shook my entire body. "Mark, I'm so sorry," I choked out, over and over again. "I'm so sorry." He stood up, slowly, deliberately. He didn't yell, didn't scream, didn't throw the phone. He just looked at me, his face a mask of profound grief. "Get out," he said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Get out of my house." I tried to reach for him, to explain, to beg. "Please, Mark, listen to me." He flinched away, as if my touch was poison. "No, I don't want to hear it. Not now. Just go." I gathered a few things, numbly, my mind a fog of panic and regret. The kids were still inside, oblivious. I could hear their laughter. It tore me apart. Leaving felt like abandoning them, abandoning my entire life. I drove aimlessly for hours, the suburban streets I knew so well feeling alien and hostile. I called Chris. He sounded shocked, then immediately concerned, then a little distant. He offered his spare room, a temporary place to stay. I took him up on it, because where else was there to go? Staying at Chris's apartment was surreal. The very place where the affair had blossomed now felt tainted, sterile. The intimacy we once shared was gone, replaced by an awkward silence, a heavy tension. He tried to comfort me, to tell me it would be okay, that we would figure it out. But his words felt hollow. The thrill was gone, replaced by the crushing weight of reality. I missed my home, my kids, the familiar scent of Mark's pillow. I missed the life I had so carelessly thrown away. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, angry phone calls, and hushed conversations with tearful children. Mark filed for divorce. He wanted full custody. He couldn't look at me with pain contorting his face. He told me he felt like he didn't even know who I was anymore, that the woman he loved had vanished. And he was right. I didn't know who I was either. Chris and I, we tried. We really did. We went out, tried to act like a couple, tried to build something new from the ashes of my old life. But the foundation was rotten. Every time he touched me, I thought of Mark's face, etched with betrayal. Every time he spoke of a future, I thought of my children, their confusion, their hurt. The lightness, the excitement, the feeling of being seen that Chris had once given me had evaporated. It was replaced by a sense of profound loneliness and the constant echo of my own terrible choices.
Our conversations became strained. He started to feel the pressure, the weight of being the reason my life imploded. He eventually admitted that he didn't want to be the reason, that he felt overwhelmed. He wanted to be supportive, he said, but this wasn't what he signed up for. His love, or whatever it was, couldn't withstand the collateral damage. We quietly, sadly, ended things. It wasn't even a dramatic breakup, just a mutual understanding that what we had built was never meant to last beyond the shadows. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town, a sterile box filled with cheap furniture. My kids visited on weekends, supervised exchanges at a neutral location. They were quiet, wary. My daughter, Lily, who used to cling to me, now held back, her eyes wide and questioning. My son, Ben, asked me once with a child's brutal honesty, "Mommy, why don't you live with us anymore? Did you do something bad?" The question sliced through me. I couldn't answer. How do you explain that kind of selfishness to a 7-year-old? The divorce went through, swift and brutal. Mark was fair but cold. The man who had been my best friend, my confidant, the love of my life for 2 decades, now treated me like a stranger. Worse, like an enemy. The trust was annihilated, and it was my fault. All of it. Life now is quiet. Too quiet. My apartment feels vast and empty after the controlled chaos of our family home. The silence screams at me, filled with the ghosts of laughter, of shared secrets, of a future that will never be. I see Mark sometimes at the kids' school events or when we exchange them. He looks tired, older, but he's moved on. He's dating someone new, I heard from a mutual friend. A kind woman, a teacher, someone good, someone who deserves him. And I'm alone. The career I was so passionate about, it still exists, but the spark is gone. I go through the motions. I manage my team, hit my targets, make my presentations, but the joy isn't there. My colleagues look at me differently too. The whispers follow me. Did you hear about Sarah? Poor Mark. The judgment is palpable, a constant hum beneath the surface of polite smiles. I spend my evenings scrolling through old photos on my phone, pictures of Mark and me, laughing on vacations, holding our newborn babies, celebrating milestones, moments of pure, unadulterated happiness. I trace his face on the screen, a face that once held so much love for me, now irrevocably changed, hardened by my betrayal. The regret is a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe sometimes. People say time heals all wounds. Maybe it does. But some scars, I think, they just never truly fade. They change you. They redefine you.
They remind you of the person you once were, the life you once had, and the destructive choices that shattered it all. I miss Mark. I miss my family. I miss the simple, uncomplicated love we shared. I miss the woman I was before I decided that a fleeting moment of selfish desire was worth more than 2 decades of unwavering commitment. Every day, I live with the agonizing knowledge that I broke something beautiful, something precious, something irreplaceable. And I did it to myself. I did it to him, and I did it to our children. There's no undoing it, just this hollow ache, a constant reminder of the day I blew up my entire world.